Hey everybody, Substatica here. In this video, I'm going to be replacing the analog stick on my Quest 2 controller because it's been exhibiting some issues and it's making games unplayable. So I've got a kit here from Amazon which contains, I think, 4 replacement analog sticks, and we'll be attempting to replace this one with one of these. Before we get started, take a minute to click the S in the corner to subscribe. Heading for 50,000 subscribers, I'd love to have you on the team. Also like, share, leave a comment, let me know what you think of the video or what you think of any replacement kits that you've purchased and installed. Let's get to it here. Now, you can experience drift with these analog sticks as they age, and that is the stick basically registering an input when you are not manipulating it. Now, that's not exactly the issue that I'm experiencing, and I've had this happen to 2 left controllers. So something to do with the left controller scheme in games stresses the stick in a way that, for me, when I move the stick to one side and let it flick back, that flick back actually registers an input on the opposite side. So you get this weird flicking effect and bad selections in things like radial menus. So let's open up this kit from Amazon. I've got this nice mat to work on, little sections here that we can put screws in. Okay, we've got a pry tool. We've got 2 analog sticks and some covers. We've got 2 analog sticks and some screws. We've got some screwdrivers. This one allows us to spin it while holding the back steady to apply pressure, and that looks to be a torque. We've got some tweezers. We've got a smaller screwdriver, also torque, because we're going to be working in tight spaces. We've got some adhesive, it looks like, which I'm not sure where this goes. I'm not sure if we'll use it. We've got a pry tool, steel pry tool, and then we have another steel pry tool, this one thinner. Now, for operations like this, I like to put on some gloves because the oils on your hand can affect components, things like wireless antennas. Depending on the device, sometimes I'll put on 1 glove. This time I'm going to go ahead and put on 2 because I'm filming and that seems more responsible. You can see we've got a nice Mojo brown on our stock strap. So the first thing we're going to do is pop off the battery cover. We'll put that aside. Now, there's a sticker in here that we've got to get off because there are additional screws under this sticker. So let's get this pry tool, see if we can get it started. Okay, there's our sticker. Sorry about the glare. And it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws to take out. Let's go ahead and use our Torx screwdriver to remove these. Now, it's important that you keep track of the screws. Now, I used to use Pringles lids and I just write on them with a Sharpie, but now I have this little container. So we're going to start here and move this way with this mat. And you can get these mats on Amazon. They're relatively inexpensive and they're heat resistant, so you can solder on them and things like that. And some of them are even magnetic, not this one. So in this step, we'll put all the screws in here. And if we run into a different sized screw, then we'll move to the left. And if we run out of those containers or sections at the top, we can start using these. I haven't done this before. I've seen some instructions, but we're going to find out how easy it is together, or difficult, I suppose. So the next step here is probably the most difficult, and that is separating the faceplate. It's held in place by some adhesive, but also some of those wonderful plastic tabs, and that's why they include this tool with the kit. We've got to wedge it between the faceplate and the controller body. Just go slow, work it around to defeat the adhesive. And then once we've got a gap, we can start using one of the other pry tools. So I just cut myself there. Tells you how sharp this particular tool is. So I'm gonna go ahead and bandage that. Okay, I've got a bandage. I'm gonna put another glove on. Honestly, was not expecting that. Obviously. I don't know if we have a gap yet. Let's be a little more careful how we apply pressure to this tool. Let's not push directly on the back of the tool. Okay, let's see if we can get pry tool in. Not quite. I mean, this tool seems good for slicing through the adhesive, but it's not really doing any prying. Okay. You can see that that one's getting in, if I can get it to focus. So now that we have that pry tool in, I can probably fit this one in and start sliding it around to release the faceplate. So we've basically got this section gapped. Now we've got to somehow move that around. Looks like we've got it popped up there. Just go slow. Remember, there's adhesives and some plastic tabs. Okay, you can see some of the black adhesive has come off on our pry tool. I can get my fingernails in there, so I'm just gonna gently apply some pressure. And let's slide this along slowly. I can hear the adhesive releasing. We've got a pretty good gap now. And popped off. Hopefully that didn't break anything. The adhesive that shipped with it, the kit that is probably meant to replace that. I don't know if we'll put that on. We'll see. So now we've got a whole lot of screws in here to take care of. And this little short screwdriver comes in handy because longer screwdrivers will hit the ring. There are some that we can access with the larger screwdriver, and that just gives us a bit more purchase. Okay, so I can see that these two screws at the top are a different length. So let's put those in a different section here. Okay, that one is a bit of a tricky angle, but we've got it going now. So that is another one of the long ones. We've got two more to go. Okay, this one does not want to come out the last little bit. Going to engage our tweezers. There we go. Whoa, that's a long one. Okay, I think we've got them all. Let me just double check here. No, there's one here that seems to have a black coating rather than nickel, so it's a bit hard to identify as a screw. There we are. Okay. All right, now we can pop off the thumbstick cap. We could have done that before taking out the screws, but it doesn't matter. If you feel that it gives you better access, you can take it out before taking out the screws. Just be careful not to pull the spring too hard when you take it out because it can stick. And then we're going to take off the sensor ring. So to do that, we want to press in a little tab at the front of the controller there, and then gently work our way around the ring. There's a bit of adhesive, but it comes off pretty easily just in your hand. Just going to take off some of that excess adhesive so it doesn't get in the way when we reassemble. So now we're going to separate the controller base. We do that by kind of pulling down on one side while pushing up on the other. It's a bit hard to get a grip with these gloves, and everything's got to be firm but gentle. Okay, there we go. And the other side does not want to separate for some reason. I'm just checking to see whether I missed any screws. That doesn't seem to be the case. It's kind of there. That little section was still kind of locked in. Okay, now you can see there's a ribbon cable in there. It's probably going to be difficult to point out, but right in here, and we're going to have to lift up a little tab to get that ribbon cable to release. There we go. So that was the ribbon cable, and it was inserted in here. And what I did was I flipped up this little portion at the back to release it. Now, this is our thumbstick base. And the way that we release that, this ribbon cable is flipping up the back of this little ribbon connection. Now that will come out. Now we're going to go ahead and take out the screws that attach this circuit board to the controller. Got 1, 2, 3, and the 4th is just above the thumbstick, but a bit hard to see. Now, these screws under the trigger are a bit difficult to access. Kind of have to approach them at an angle. Need quite a bit of pressure on this last one just because it's a pretty bad angle. Okay. Now we can take out the joystick. Now, we don't want to lift the motherboard any more than we have to, because then the buttons start coming out of their slots, and you can put them back in, but it's easier not to. So there's the culprit. We can go ahead and take out a replacement. And let's go ahead and see if we can see what went wrong with the old one. Now, if I recall, I did have some stick drift on this, but I'm not seeing any visible damage. Although the sensor here does seem to have some sort of residue or damage on it. Let's go ahead and get our spring on. And now all that's left is to reassemble. Again, we only want to lift the motherboard enough to get the thumbstick in. I'm going to try getting the other side under first. No, that's no good. Okay, there we go. Kind of had to slip the whole thing under and then come back up. And slip the ribbon cable in. These tweezers are not giving me a lot of grip. Okay, that was pretty tricky, but I did manage to slide it in. It's not laying completely flat, but we're going to close it in and reassemble, and obviously we'll check everything. Just going to put one screw in so things stay in place. Then we'll have a look at the face. Make sure everything button-wise is in the right place still, seated, and presses. Then let's go ahead and put in the other 3 screws. Again, this last one is a big pain because of proximity to the trigger. Now, getting this ribbon cable back in looks a bit tricky. Okay, well, not gonna lie, that was a bit of a nightmare to get that ribbon cable back in. Future Substatica here. Now, I'm going through the same process on a second controller, and I've realized that reseating this second ribbon cable is by far the trickiest part of the process. So I thought I'd share a couple more tips. I've found that putting this part almost completely in place works best, and just make sure that the ribbon cable is at least pushing up against the socket. And then once you've got this part almost seated completely, you want to reach in there with some fine tweezers and maybe a magnifying light for visibility if you have one, and just nudge the ribbon cable so that the tension on it actually lets it push into its socket. It can take a couple tries to get it seated correctly. It does have little tabs on either side to kind of help you push a bit. Just be gentle and don't pinch the cable too hard with the tweezers, because you don't want to bend it harshly. Once you've got that done, once it looks like it's been seated and the little tab on either side is butted up against the socket, then you want to use either the tip or potentially the blunt end of the tweezers to push down the latch on the back of the socket. And that is going to lock the cable in place. Now, to be certain that the cable is seated correctly, we can actually put a battery in at this point. And what you want to do is hold down the top button, so in the case of the left controller, that's Y, and the menu button for say 5 to 10 seconds, and you should either get a light on the back of the ring, a vibration, or both. So I got 3 vibrations there. That means that we're connected here. You can actually try to pair the controller with your headset like this if you really want to be sure. And then once you've done that, you can be confident that the ribbon cable is seated. Then affix this part, which actually requires you to lift this part up a bit so that it seats properly. Once you've got this part on, do the same test. Upper button and the menu button, look for the light and feel for the vibration. And that'll make sure that you haven't unseated the ribbon cable in the process of putting this back on. Because what you don't want to do is put everything back together only to find out that you nudged the ribbon cable off during some of the assembly process. And now I'll hand it back to past Substatica. Put that little latch down once the ribbon cable is in. Okay, we're getting there. Okay. That's back on. We're going to separate that so we can get this in there. And that seemed to snap in pretty good. Make sure all our controls are still functioning. Okay, and let's put the ring back on. Clicks in. Now we've got to put all the screws back in the faceplate. Or under the faceplate, let's say. Put the thumbstick cap back on. Let's just check the adhesive here before we put the faceplate back on. Just try to clean it up a little bit. Okay, that goes back on a lot easier than it came off. I realize that the focus is an issue and I apologize for that. I don't do a lot of these repair videos on this channel, so I don't have the camera really set up for that. I mean, it's a relatively involved process. I can tell because my hands are starting to shake from the fatigue of all the manipulation, but we're almost at the finish line, hopefully. Okay, that's all closed up. Put our strap back in. And we are done. And that is how you replace the analog stick on a Quest 2 controller. There will be links in the description to where you can pick up some replacement analog sticks, as well as one of these snazzy pads. And remember, be careful with this. Don't cut yourself. Don't be like Substatica. If you haven't already, take a minute to click the S in the corner to subscribe. Heading for 50,000 subscribers, I'd love to have you on the team. Also like, share, leave a comment, let me know what you think of the video, or of any replacement parts that you've purchased and installed. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.